Okay, I have 5:15. I'm Chairman Stan Helton. I'll call roll. Commissioner Patterson, you're on here, sir.
Yes, I am, Chairman.
And Commissioner Johnson, you're on as well?
Yes.
All right. We have a quorum and we will proceed on with the meeting. First of all, I apologize to everyone. We've had to go back to teleconference meetings for public safety and for all of us that are participating during this COVID pandemic. And we'll have some discussions on this later on in the meeting to get some more specifics. But again, we're very sorry we couldn't have an open meeting tonight, but in the best interest of everyone's safety, we felt this was the best route. So having said that, we'll start with item number 1, unfinished business. And this would be approval of the minutes from the June 23rd meeting. Whenever you're ready to move forward, please let me know.
I've read the minutes and have no objections.
Okay. Commissioner Patterson?
I've read the minutes as well and have no issues with it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Johnson. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Ms. Walker, did we get any public comments from Fannin County residents prior to our 2 o'clock deadline?
We did not.
We did not. Okay. We'll dispense with public commentary and move on to new business. Variances. And before we address all these variances, I confirm with land development that all of the placards were up at each property with plenty of time, and that we received no, or her office had no objective calls come in to her. So I think we can move forward and make decisions on these and be assured that all the neighbors have plenty of time to look at that. So the first variance request is one that we tabled until this meeting, and this was for Thomas and Katrina Jordan, and to place a carport 17 feet from the edge of Claude Neal Lane. And we did table this because of the lack of a variance poster, which has been put out there in plenty of time right after that meeting. So Commissioner Patterson, you have any comments on this one, sir?
I went to the property and looked at it, and I have no concerns at this time with that property.
Commissioner Johnson?
I have none.
Okay. I've looked at it as well and have no issues. So I'll ask for a motion that we approve this variance for Thomas and Katrina Jordan.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Here a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. I'll sign the variance. Okay. Variance number 3 was another one that was tabled from Blue Ridge Lake Investments. And since that time, Blue Ridge Lake Investments has withdrawn their variance request. So we don't have to address that one. We'll just move on since it has been withdrawn. That'll take care of number 3. Variance number 4 is from Somerset Partners of Tennessee, and this is to place a house 20 feet from the edge of the present cul-de-sac and 40 feet from the center of the cul-de-sac. This is a Morgan Trail, new home, and Commissioner Patterson, it is not on a county road. So what thoughts do you have, Commissioner Patterson?
Well, when I looked at it, I thought that that would be okay. I didn't see an issue with it.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Johnson.
No issues.
Okay, and neither do I. So I'll ask for a motion that we approve this variance.
Make the motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, that was a motion made by Commissioner Johnson, I believe, and seconded by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous. Okay. We have a series of variances, all from Somerset Partners by a local builder, which is good for our economy. And this one again is Somerset Partners. And again, in the same subdivision, to place two houses, lots 4 and 5, 40 feet from the center line of Morgan Trail subdivision, and or Morgan Trail Road, not a county road, right there in the same area. Commissioner Patterson, your thoughts, sir?
I looked at it and I have no issues at this time.
Okay. And Commissioner Johnson?
I have none.
Okay. And mine have none as well. Ask for a motion that we approve this variance.
Make the motion.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson. Ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Moving on to variance request number 6. Again, Somerset Partners for lots 8, 9, and 11. And the request is to place homes 20 feet from the edge of the road. There's no easement shown on Quail Hollow. So we're just looking at, again, the same type of variance request that we had from the others. And I'm pretty excited because this is 6 new homes going up in that same area, which is going to be employment for local folks and some good tax revenue coming to the county in the future. Commissioner Patterson, do you have any thoughts on this one, sir?
Are we going to all of them at the same time, 8, 9, and 11?
Yes, sir.
Is that how we're doing it?
They're all on the same variance. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. No, I don't have any issues with any of these 3.
Okay.
I'm good.
Mr. Johnson is okay, and I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson made a motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Again, that's pretty exciting to me to have that kind of activity showing our economy with our strength being a lot of building going on in the county, and looks like we're getting that started up again. Variance request number 7 is from David and Lee Heyman, and this one is to place a house within 10 feet of the property line from a neighbor. The neighbor, the good folks Ron and Cecilia Scherer, were kind enough to give a letter allowing these folks to build that close within their property line. They had initially requested 8 feet, and then through contact through land development requested 10 feet, which is a little better room. So Commissioner Patterson, do you have any thoughts on this one, sir?
No, with the letter attached and the shares, I don't see any problem whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
I have no issues with the variance.
Okay. Neither do I. I'll ask for a motion of approval.
Make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Patterson made the motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay. The next variance is another new house, and this is by D&H Land Development, LLC, and Danny Patterson. And the variance request is to place a home 23 feet from the edge of a private road, Foster Cove Road, and 30 feet from the center of Foster Cove Road. And the reason is because it's a very steep lot. And this is very consistent with what we've done throughout the county in the past. Commissioner Patterson, you have any comments on this one, sir?
When I've looked at it, it is a steep drop off. So, you know, I think that's going to be 23 feet will be sufficient.
Okay.
I don't have an issue or concern.
All right. Okay. Commissioner Patterson has no issue. Commissioner Johnson?
No issue.
Okay. I do not as well, so I'll ask for a motion of approval.
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Patterson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're unanimous. Okay, item number 9. Auditors budget amendment recommendations. And what we have this time of the year, of course, is our audit is ongoing. We're getting very close to the end. And the time, of course, with the COVID outbreak has delayed many of the state functions and certainly what we're trying to do with our auditors. And this has all been approved, the delay and the extended time by the state. So we are now at this point to get down to the final audit adjustments. And these adjustments, and gentlemen, did you get a copy of the numbers that were presented on the adjustments recommended? Commissioner Patterson?
Yes, I received them.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. And Commissioner Johnson, did you receive them, sir?
Yes.
Okay, good. And what this process involves is the auditors, after they've gone through all of our budget and looked at all the numbers and gone through each of the departments, what they do is they give us recommendations. And these adjustments are recommended by the auditors. We, as the board, have to approve them. And then if we approve them, the auditors will take those adjustments and we'll come back with a final budget. Now, one thing for anyone listening, the numbers that we're looking at here, if we approve this, will be on the final audit. So nothing is going to be hidden. What this is basically a reconciliation between our original budget and what the actual numbers have come in for the year. And then the auditors, by law and by state approval, have the authority, well, I say authority, they legally can get back to the county with suggestions on audit adjustments. And the goal is to have the numbers to be within 3%. So there can be some of the adjustments they have on the last page. They have basically the opportunity to make adjustments to make this work. And again, the state allows this. But what we do here is if we approve these adjustments by the audit, they'll put everything that we're looking at today in the final audit. They'll come back with the final audit, and what the audit presentation would be, hopefully within about a month. So I guess the proper term is these are auditor suggestions to us, and we do not have to accept them. But what happens is, if we do not accept what the auditors, the CPAs recommend, then there would be a comment on our final audit saying we did not work within our budget. And the auditors basically are giving us the final budget. The state, of course, reviews this not only do our auditors review this, but after it's signed off, it goes to the state for their review. And quite honestly, the comment of we didn't work within our budget would probably, that would be a comment that we most likely would not want. And the auditors are allowed to do this, and they commonly do this with either counties or cities, anybody that they're doing the audit numbers for. Any questions at this point before we discuss this a little further?
I have none.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, anything, sir?
Well, the only question I had is on the on the recommendations. A lot of the the salaries and things to that, like it's the account numbers on there, but to me it's very hard to determine what department those are,
yes, sir.
And how they're wanting them to be moved around.
Okay, all right. You can get those explanations. We can get those for you, Ms. Walker. You can get those. And for those listening, it's a series of numbers on here that, oh goodness, we've got 12, 13 digits, and there's a 2-digit number that designates an appropriate department. We can get that for you, Mr. Johnson, and send that to you.
Yeah.
I would say the one here, that the 31 account, I can tell you, is the jail, because I can see inmate medical and meals for prisoners. I don't think that goes into maintenance. So I could pretty readily spot that one as being the detention center. The others, I'm like you, I'm not, these account numbers can be a little confusing without that description. So we can get that for you, sir. There's a couple of good things on here that I want to point out. At the top of the front page, we have fund balance beginning of the year. And the beginning of the year, this would be January 1st of 2019, our fund balance, and that would be our unassigned fund balance, $10,488,000. Originally, the budget, weighing the expenditures and the anticipated revenue, we were projecting to be negative almost $820,000. However, during the year, because of additional revenue that came in, primarily that, we wound up with a gain of $866,940 in the positive to the unassigned fund balance. So beginning of 2019, we had $10,488,000. By the end of the year, we had $11,355,000. So that was a very positive change in our finances over the year, and I think that's a great thing. Anytime you're trying to predict revenues from the start of the year, that's almost impossible, and we tend to be very conservative in our projections. But at the end of the year, it was nice to know that instead of being down $820,000 in the fund balance change, that we were positive 866. So that to me was a tremendous testament to the strength of Fannin County and the citizens and the business people and all the folks that, the taxpayers that made this happen. So, Commissioner Patterson, any comments on that, sir?
No, I was following along on the second page that you gave us, and it does look good. And I was real glad that we could see that positive change.
Okay.
Like you said, the citizens are involved with that, and we appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Johnson, any comments, sir?
No.
Okay. Well, commissioners, I've looked at this as thoroughly as I can, and of course, as I'll keep reiterating this for anyone listening, what we're looking at here, these numbers will be on the final audit that will be presented hopefully within a month, 6 weeks in that time frame. So everything that we're looking at recommended changes will be there. And then the final audit, of course, will be there to compare what we're doing. And again, all this is recommended by the CPAs that we pay, and that's the first year they've done this for us. So it's as complex as our budget and all these numbers are. They probably, if they do it again next year, will be a little more familiar and get this done for us. So, commissioners, I would like to ask if we could get a motion to approve the suggested audit adjustments to send back to the auditors. I would ask for that motion.
I make a motion.
Okay. And I will make the second on that motion. Any further comments before I ask for a vote? Okay. Have a motion and I have a second, and I'll ask for a vote that we approve these audit suggested adjustments. Say aye if you agree. Aye.
Aye.
Damn woman.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson, was that a yay or nay, sir?
I'm nay.
Okay, you're nay? All right.
Yeah, I'm nay.
Okay.
There's some kind of feedback coming through this phone or something.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So let me clarify. I'm in favor, Commissioner Patterson's in favor, and you are not in favor.
Yeah, due to lack of there's a complete lack of detailing out what all these line items are for.
Okay.
I figured our CFO could line it out a little bit better than that. But.
Okay. We will get that to you. All right. We'll move on to item 10, and this is the Mountain Area Transit System agreement between the county, the MATS buses, and this is basically a yearly contract that we sign. This one would cover the period July 1st through June 30th of 2021. And what we contribute, the county's contribution is $194,000 per year. And this comes to us in the form of a monthly billing of about $16,000 per month. And again, this is the MATS system to transport elderly and low-income folks throughout our county with a mountain area transit system. Mr. Johnson, Commissioner Patterson, any comments on this, sir?
A question: do these does it go up each year, or is it a set figure? How does that work?
I'm looking on this trying to find that number if I can. This last year was $158,701, and this year the request is for let me get the right page here, $194,238. So yes, it is an increase from 158 to 194.
Well, my thoughts was, is it based on how many citizens use it, or how many that needs it, or how is that based? Like so much money per person per year. Do you have any idea how they come about with that number?
Off the top of my head, the answer is no, sir. I do not have that answer.
So it does depend upon the number of people that use it? Or?
Again, Commissioner Patterson, I cannot give you an answer to that. There may be more involved with that than what we know. I'm not sure what the COVID expenditures were. There's additional actions there, but I do not have an answer on that for you this time.
Okay.
All right. We can, Commissioner Johnson, what comments do you have on this, sir?
I have none. It's a very valuable service, and it's kind of hard to keep up with who uses it and who doesn't use it. I know they transport a lot of our senior people around, and I'm glad to have them.
Right. I would, Commissioner Patterson, I would certainly welcome, and we can get the contacts if you want to query them on some any more of your questions about this, and that's certainly fine, and being very diligent. In my view of this is they do provide a very valuable service to the community, and they're having to do some things right now with additional cost on this. Not sure if there's any opportunities for us to recover some of that increased cost to that, but we certainly can do that if you want to dig into that a little further and get more comfortable with it. But I really feel like it's necessary since we're already past the July 1st deadline to get this started. I would like to ask for a motion that we approve this, and then if you are uncomfortable with anything, you certainly can vote against it or get additional information that would satisfy your very correct question on what the specifics are. So at this,
I think it's a good program. I just wondered how they came about with that figure, but I certainly want to support all our people that use that program, all of our elderly and so forth. That I think it is something we certainly want to continue
sure,
and help them out.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this memorandum of agreement with North Georgia Community Action for July 1st through June 30th of next year. I'll make the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. Second from Commissioner Johnson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
I couldn't hear you, Commissioner Patterson. Was that a yay or a nay?
It was a yay.
Okay. All right. Unanimous. All right. Thank you, sirs. Okay. Item number 11, tiny homes moratorium. And just to refresh, this is really a moratorium on tiny home subdivisions. And we extended this moratorium last year to expire July 1st. And just to reiterate, state standards that basically go through the International Residential Code mandate or state that any home less than 500 square foot of heated space would be considered a tiny home. And last year we had a very extensive review with local builders in this area. And although folks can, this doesn't keep someone from building a tiny home on their property, we did ask for a moratorium on tiny home subdivisions, which seemed to be the biggest rub with any builder associations. And it seemed to be a compromise to do that. And I really, from my perspective on this, I thought we really should discuss this now again. And since we basically have run that moratorium has released. So Commissioner Patterson, do you have some thoughts on what you'd like to see happen here, sir?
Well, I was looking back on our minutes from last time. It said that you said that, well, I think it was Mr. Johnson actually said that wanted to make sure that needed to have the builders be a part of the decision on this. And I haven't heard from any builders. I'd be interested to hear if you or Commissioner Johnson have heard from builders since that time.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from several builders, and you know, a lot of the builders the last time were more of custom homes, high end, you know, upper echelon type homes that they sell. And you know, a lot of the other builders, you know, I don't hear any of them really wanting to build tiny homes, but you know, some of them said, you know, that if people have the right to, you know, they should be able to. And I mean, I agree with that. It's just, you know, up to, I guess it's a decision all up to us that we want tiny home subdivisions or not in our county. I'm not sure of anyone who's applied in the past, you know, but due that there's a moratorium, I don't even know how many inquiries there have been. So, you know, a lot of builders, you know, they think it would be more affordable housing, and it's kind of a trendy thing that, you know, some people like, you know, they feel less is more. And I don't know, it's just it's a catch-22 really. But, you know, some of the smaller builders feel like a lot of the other builders, you know, not everyone can afford a $700,000 cabin. So, yeah, I've had several talks with several different builders, but even the builders who were, you know, for if someone wanted to do it, allow them to have a tiny home subdivision or a small home subdivision. I mean, the lines get so blurry with the minimum square footage anyway. You know, they still felt like, you know, people should have the opportunity to do it on their own land. And I feel the same way. If you own land or acreage, you should be able to build on it whatever you want, whether it be a tent or a yurt or a tiny home. But I think the main concern with everyone is, do we want a subdivision out of all that? And that's what's left to be discussed.
Right. Well, I think what we have with our moratorium is a good compromise in that we allow individuals, as you mentioned, to build a tiny home if they want to have that on their property. Subdivisions, no, at this time. And I felt like, in thinking about this, that this is something that could be coming in the future, or it may not. But my concern was to do a full-fledged ordinance. I'm not smart enough to see way down the road and realize that if we do an ordinance, it's going to be perfect for, you know, even 2, 3, 4 years in the future. And although some folks may say we're just kicking the can down the road, I think my thoughts are, by extending it either 6 months to January 1st or to July 1st, another year, no shorter than that, no longer than that. gives us a chance to see if this trend is coming and that we really need to address it. From my standpoint, I really feel like the reasonable approach on this is to extend what we have for either 6 months or a year. And I'm pretty amiable, if you gentlemen agreed with that, to go either time frame. And this allows the true market to dictate whether, we need to do anything further than this. But I just have a concern of trying to put together a ordinance that applies, that one size fits all. I think that's a very difficult thing to do, particularly when you're building homes. And I think something else, tiny homes, if you look at the cost of some of these, it's really not affordable housing for people like some folks may think. If you look at this cost per square foot on some of these, it's pretty substantial. So if you want to buy a nice tiny home, it's certainly not the cheap way out. And certainly if they do it by standard, it's not going to be the answer for affordable housing, not tiny home subdivisions. So let me throw it back to you, Commissioner Patterson, and see what your thoughts are at this point.
Well, again, looking at this thing, I know in our minutes, I guess when did we last talk about this? About 6 months ago, or was it further?
Well, I believe this was, we're looking, I believe.
It's been a while since we talked about it.
Yeah, it's been close to a year.
Well, at that time, it looks like, you said that you felt that there was a need, or that there was other counties close to us that had some issues in maintaining the tiny homes. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I haven't heard any more, but I do know some of our surrounding counties have more tiny homes, much more tiny homes than we do, and even in subdivisions. But the maintenance has been an issue. So I would be content in putting it out for another year, so that we could get more information and data before we allow that to come into Fannin County and be a concern as it is in some of our other surrounding counties.
Okay, all right.
That would be what I would think.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with a year. It's been almost a year since we discussed it the last time.
Okay.
And other than just, social talks and, just, from the hip, I haven't had any interest or concern, spoke to me about anyone even wanting a tiny home subdivision. So, to this point, I mean, I'm not saying that we should say no forever. I mean, because someone might come in with a grand idea for tiny homes, and, it might be a great thing for the county. But I don't think if people are interested, it'll give them a year to, present the facts and present their case if they are interested in building a tiny home. I think at the time, we're just when the tiny home was starting to become hot. It was a concern for all the counties,
right?
Because while it may not be cheap per square foot, but a lot of people can afford $70,000 when they can't afford $700,000. Mm-hmm. So it can, and depending on the purpose, whether they're wanting to live there all the time or whether they're part time. I mean, I think a year would give anyone on either side of the aisle, whichever side they're on this issue, to present, their facts and their argument, and maybe the county move forward and either make an ordinance or carry on as we are.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm in favor as well of extending it till July 1st of 2021. So I'll ask for a motion that we extend the tiny home subdivision extension that we have at this time until July 1st of 2021, moratorium on the tiny home subdivision. I'll ask for a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Patterson, motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor, designate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, moving on to item number 12. And we'll go into a little background here. Last week, Wednesday morning, we became aware of potential COVID cases in the courthouse. Cases are case, singular. And at this time, I started getting information on companies that could do cleaning and sanitizing and do it in a first-class way. Had discussions with the Chief Superior Court Judge, Miss Weaver, and the sheriff. And at the time, initially, we thought that it would be contained on one floor. And within a short time of starting that process and getting a company lined up to come up here, we become concerned that there had been perhaps other exposures throughout the courthouse. So we had to take this moving train from one floor of the courthouse, and basically with the agreement of the officials I just mentioned, contracted out with a company to come through and clean the entire courthouse, and not just clean it down, but completely go through in a professional manner. We had 22 people that came up here with this company they're out of Atlanta, the Atlanta area. And they brought the latest technology with foggers. They were all wearing the equipment that's necessary. I call them moon suits. And as they did the foggers all through the courthouse area, they had people after this had the fog, if you call it, had been on the surfaces for an appropriate time. Then they were wiped. The floors were vacuumed, and then they set up a number of these fans all through the courthouse to circulate the material, the fog, as you will, throughout all the ventilation systems, which I understand is kind of been the Achilles heel in places like the nursing homes and extended care facilities to get into those areas. So this was an all-day event. On Thursday, we had to make a quick decision because the courts closed down at the same time on Wednesday, and with a plan to reopen on Monday. In addition, we had we do have an election going on, and we had personnel in the election office that we could not delay them coming back in more than a day, or we would be really pushing our chances on our election being handled properly. So the only flaw in this whole program was me underestimating the square footage in this courthouse, which I was trying to do from one floor and multiply that by 3. But I can now tell you that this courthouse has 69,752 square feet in this courthouse. And this was done, the folks that came up here, as I mentioned, did this very thoroughly, but it's not a cheap procedure. So to be completely up with what we've got, and I believe you gentlemen were emailed the numbers that you've got. I have been negotiating with them, and what they've done, the total figure as it stands right now is $70,059. Now, what they did is they charged us the full rate on 30,000 square feet. the remaining 39,000 square feet, they reduced that to a half, a 50% rate. And I have asked them again to sharpen their pencil further and see if they can give us any further reduction. As of right now, I have not heard from them. But this number is a huge number, of course, $70,059. The good part of this, if there is a good part, is that the CARES Act that Congress passed and the funds have gone to the state. And initially, the state of Georgia put these funds available, a certain percentage out to the 4 largest counties in the state, those with populations of 500,000 or greater. Since this time, the state has agreed to make funds available to the smaller counties, including Fannin County. And this expenditure that's extraordinary was emergency. We will be able to recoup these funds from the state. And we have the expenditures that we've incurred through the 1st of September. We will be able to put in for that. So that's the good and the bad. The public, we did not have time to take bids on this. We didn't. I personally didn't feel like going to anybody that I would call a fly-by-night. I felt like a highly professional team. Our maintenance personnel was with them the whole time on what they did, and they didn't skimp on anything to do this. So I felt like it was proper to keep all of our employees safe, and certainly anyone that come into the courthouse Monday, that they would have confidence that they would come into a safe environment. So, Commissioner Patterson, I've been kind of long-winded on this, but it's a deep explanation that needs to be made for other people that are listening, because this is a pretty important thing that's happened. What comments do you have, sir?
Well, it is a very important thing. You know, we take the safety of our citizens important, and of course, to do that, we have to also take the safety of our employees. And they do a great job. There's so many facets to the courthouse and how it goes, and it would be a tragedy to have an epidemic break out there of all places. And so I appreciate the information and breaking it down to certainly explain everything that went on, and I'm good with it myself.
All right. Okay, Commissioner Johnson, what are your thoughts?
Well, the best news I've heard is the state will be able to recoup our money from the state.
Yes. Yes.
That's a very good that's very good information and very good news.
Yep.
I mean, because at first, the price tag will knock your head off, and then once I picked my head back up and got it back on, it was this is a area where I have zero expertise. How much it's supposed to cost or should cost. I know if the county did nothing and more people got sick, that would be a very big problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, the best thing that I've heard is that, we'll be able to recoup our money and kind of got the best of both worlds. We'll be able to recoup our money and, the courthouse is clean. And I think our biggest challenge and our biggest task is moving forward. If this happens again, where do we go from there? We all know we can't afford to do this every time. So I guess that would be
that'll lead into our next item, which will be following this, just exactly what you said.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge cost, but the good thing is there's funds set aside for us to help recoup. I honestly believe that, something had to be done. Because the alternative is more cases break out, and then it'd be said that no one did anything. So I'm glad all the employees and the taxpayers that come in are safe, yesterday and today. And as far as from any lingering infection, and like I said, very glad that we'll be able to recoup the funds.
Well, that's quite honestly the only flaw in the whole process was me underestimating this. I realistically thought 50 to 60,000 is where we would go with this, and 70,000 certainly is more than what I had anticipated. But again, having that COVID money that the state will make available to all the counties now, not just a few, will alleviate that heartburn. I do hope that the employees listening and any of the citizens to realize that this is certainly not trying to talk down to, preach to anyone or anything else. We have to be careful in the future, and no one should feel at fault on this if they actually brought this in. No one can. It's an invisible enemy, and this is something that's not just a county, a state. It's a worldwide issue. So we had to tackle this real quick, and we did. And then I'll ask for a vote for us to approve this expenditure, and then we'll move on to 13 and talk a little bit about future procedures. So if you will allow me, I'll make the motion that we approve this to American Property Restoration Company in the amount of $70,059. And I will keep trying before we get the final bill to get that down even further. But at this point, this is the maximum. So I'll make the motion that we approve this expenditure. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Patterson. Any further discussion on this before we vote? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. Yay to approve, nay to not approve. Yay?
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
All right, unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, on the item 13, and Commissioner Johnson alluded to this just earlier, what do we do to try and protect the employees? What measures do we take? What measures do we ask the public to help us with? And the very first thing is, although we may be able, department by department, ask the employees make masks mandatory in their work areas, and we cannot legally demand that the public do that. We can ask them, we can urge them, we can plead, we can strongly recommend of anybody that comes in here from the public to the courthouse that they wear a mask, but we cannot prevent them from coming in here with that. So having made that statement, Commissioner Patterson, you have some thoughts on what you'd like to see happen here on courthouse access for citizens and employees to try to avoid or minimize this occurrence in the future?
Well, you've got your guidelines, and people have to, we have to trust a lot of people to do those things with washing the hands and mask. Of course, you covered that, social distance and those type of things. But today, I know in the past we've took temperatures. I think that's a pretty easy thing. I went through today, and it didn't take but 2 or 3 seconds.
Right.
That's something you might want to continue.
Okay. All right. Anything as far as any recommendations to employees, what you feel like they should be doing?
Well, this thing has lingered on, this virus, and we've all, learned new terminology with COVID and social distancing and all this. I would just say, and this is not just the courthouse, but all of us, even as all over the Fannin County, we need to keep our guard up. Mm-hmm. We need to recognize that this thing is still around, and we need to follow through and be diligent, and just don't let your guard down, don't get lax, and do these things. I would like to encourage not just our courthouse staff to do that. I know we see a lot of people gathering various places on TV or wherever, at the beaches, and not following these procedures. But we're Fannin County, and I've got a lot of trust that we will follow those. I just wanted to encourage it for all of our citizens to do so.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, you want to weigh in, sir?
I mean, my view on this is, me being out over the weekend and the past couple of weekends, since the state's been opened back up, everyone needs to be as careful as they possibly can, and still live life. I mean, that's one thing we got to do. We got to keep on no matter what, comes our way. Quite honestly, my opinion on it is when there's license plates here from every state, 10 states around us, and everywhere you go is just packed with people from everywhere. It's impossible for us to keep it out of here. That's just the fact. And then for the people that are already, the citizens that live here that, may be spreading it or whatever. All we can do is ask the people to be as careful as they possibly can. The employees be as careful and smart as they possibly can, not, eating lunch right next to each other or whatever. At this point, we're kind of, it's with all the traffic in our county, we know what it's going to bring, whether anyone will say it or not. So all people can do is be as smart as they possibly can and as careful as they possibly can. And if you don't feel good for the employees, if you're even, skeptical of having any of the symptoms, I guess the best thing would be to do is not come in the courthouse, because it's an enclosed environment. 1 floor, I'm supposing the air duct systems, they heat and cool the whole floor, if I was guessing. So, if anyone's scared of has any symptoms, they just need to stay away from the courthouse. I really don't know, other than that, what to say. It seems like no matter what you do, it continues to spread, and you just be as smart and careful as you possibly can be. But I think it'd be a great idea for all the employees to wear a mask, to try and just, minimize it as much as they can, especially their exposure to all the other people coming in and out of the courthouse.
Right. Okay. Well, what we've started this week in the courthouse, and this is for visitors or anyone else, employees here, is that, and we're asking any of the employees to come through the front door, not through the back door if they have access that way. But all visitors and all employees must have their temperature checked before entering. And this is right there at the guard station, right before you go through the guard security area. And it's a pretty neat piece of equipment that's there. And if there's any discrepancy, or if someone sets that off, the guards do have another temperature backup gauge that they can do. It's non-invasive. They can put it to close to your temple. And if there's any questions about the temperature, we do have a backup on that. There's also sanitizers that's provided as security as you go in as well. And we are strongly encouraging visitors to wear masks, and this is anyone that comes in. Now, for the employees, we can, and this goes to from the commissioner's office, those under our Board of Commissioner purview, require them to wear masks at all times in the courthouse unless they're in their office or in their office area. They also will need to come through and do the same thing, the temperature and sanitizer before they come in. And of course, the elected offices, they can implement stronger measures if they wish. That's certainly their discretion to do that. And the other thing for the employees that I'm going to ask, and we've got to have some help from the other officials and other offices, is to minimize visiting in other courthouse areas. If it's not really business or something necessary, we need to kind of stay in our own work areas or department. I think that would be very helpful if folks would do that. Now, over and above the courthouse, we have the 911 center, and we did start today with requiring all visitors to wear a cloth mask. And there's also been some policies, procedures implemented about limiting the number of employees that can gather and that they have to practice social distancing. We can do that at the other facilities that our county maintain. The courthouse is a little different because there's more than just administrative functions here. But we've started this at the 911 center, and I'm going to ask our other department heads to follow suit, because this is to protect people. I don't like wearing a mask any more than anybody else, but if it helps keep someone safe, I'm willing to do it. So these measures that we've outlined here is what we've implemented, and as we go along, if something else comes up that helps us all or does something different, we'll just do that and keep trudging ahead until they can get a vaccine to cure this little monster that's really creating so much havoc in our country. So, Commissioners, any further thoughts on that before we move on? Okay.
Chairman, go ahead, Commissioner Johnson.
Out in our other departments, like the road department, where there's, large groups of people, I guess they're all not meeting inside, hopefully. And I guess they've taken measures there as well to limit each other's interaction with each other.
Yes, they are.
All right.
I wanted to ask, did you say that the employees are going to be wearing masks at the courthouse? Or
The employees that are under the Board of Commissioners, we're going to make that mandatory to wear a mask in the courthouse, with the exception of their department work area or their own office. If they go out into any other section of the courthouse, we're going to, I hate that word require, but we're going to ask that they do that. And of course, the other elected officials, all we can do is ask them to follow suit with the same thing. It's really their discretion. But however, if someone from another department comes into our commissioner's office not wearing a mask, we can ask them to go back and get one. That we can.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
That's all I had.
All right. Anything else on that, Commissioner Johnson?
What about, let's go ahead and talk about, because we know it's going to happen again, more than likely. Well, there's going to be someone, infected, exposed, might have been exposed, whatever. Where are we going to go from here? I think that's probably the next thing we should talk about. Because I doubt this will be the only time an employee contracts the virus. What do we need to talk about? A plan or an action before it happens again? Our protocol or what we're going to do?
Well, I think this has to be a buy-in from the other elected officials. I think the folks under our purview, if someone feels they've been exposed, we will ask them to go ahead and wear the mask. This should be county, all of the other county departments under us, that they would be able to work with a mask and keeping social distancing. However, if they have a temperature or exhibit any other signs, we're going to ask that they get a test immediately, and then they would not be allowed to return to work until they come up with a negative test. And I think that protocol should be followed by anyone that works for the county, whether it's the Board of Commissioners or any of the other elected officials. And I think I would hope we would get support from that. Just the idea of how much this has cost us, that's certainly going to be an eye opener, and already is for other employees. So that's probably all I could throw out there at this point.
I mean, but do we all feel like, just to make it clear how I feel about it, like every time someone is diagnosed or tested positive, I don't think that we should have a thorough cleaning of the courthouse.
No.
I mean, I don't think we can afford that.
No.
I don't think we can afford to go that route every time someone tests positive or whatever. So I just kind of want to get an idea of how the two of you feel, about moving forward. If, so let's just say the second floor, something happens there.
Right.
I just think we need to talk about it and get some kind of plan in place. I mean, it depends on how big, or how many cases there were or whatever. I mean, we can't really pinpoint it till it were to happen. But
right.
I guess what I should say is it real plain. I don't think we can afford a $70,000 cleaning every time someone tests positive.
No, absolutely not. I think it's going to be difficult to have something that's going to cover all the bases. I think, if someone, we're just going to have to handle some of this as it develops, and with the other offices and the other officials to do that. But this was because of the potential of what we had here. I felt like a overreaction or a stronger reaction was the thing to do initially. But no, sir, I'm not in favor of every time something like this happens doing that. And hopefully we can get some more input from even the medical people that we've relied on before on what we could do if someone does come up with that again. And it will happen most likely. Ms. Doss has some comments on this.
Commissioner Johnson, what the State Department of Public Health has told the Board of Education as part of its reopening plan might be something that would work for the courthouse. And what they've said is if you have a classroom where you have somebody that tests positive, then if the person was wearing a mask and they were not within 6 feet of somebody else for more than 15 minutes, then you close that classroom and you disinfect it with your staff using state-approved disinfectant procedures. And if you have somebody, and it may be necessary to move those employees, like we would move students, to a different room. So that's where, the governor said we aren't mandating masks. State Department of Public Health says we're not mandating masks. But if people will voluntarily wear a mask, then it will, especially among our employees, then we can minimize what we would have to do as far as cleaning. And this is especially true if people will, every office that I can think of has access to a bathroom within their own pod, or like the magistrate and probate judge share a bathroom. So that if employees will cooperate and help and stay within their own pods, And then even in the event that you had a breakout, say like in the clerk's office, you would be able to minimize what you cleaned in the area of the courthouse you closed down.
Right. But at least now going forward, we know as of Monday, our courthouse was disinfected and clean. So that's what I'm saying is, moving forward, if we have another case or another, and the biggest problem I see is all the information I'm sure all of us receive. I mean, there's false positives, there's negative. I mean, I mean, I know of someone personally who was identified as having it, and then, a week later, well, no, you don't. I mean, anyway, it was a false test, and you hear about them all over the place. So, it's just one of those things. I just think for now, we're going to have to live with it and just do the best we can to be smart and, I don't know. It's just such a hard thing to, there's a lot of people that come in and out of our courthouse on a daily basis. So it's, and like Chairman Hilton said, I mean, it's kind of hard to make a decision of what's going to be done till it's done. I just, wanted to clarify for all the other people who might not, they know how important it is, by seeing the price tag of this last cleaning that we went through. Maybe everyone, make better decisions.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, do we need executive session?
I do not.
Okay. I don't either. All right. I'll ask for a motion that we adjourn.
Make the motion.
Make a motion.
Okay. I heard a motion. I heard a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, commissioners, and thank you folks for participating in our teleconference. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.